What is up, folks? It is Friday night. Time for another RC Air Marshal live show. Like number 95 or something like that. Crazy time. What's up, Gooniac? Wild Bill, hello. EQ, Shadow, Mike Bird. What's happening, fellas? Spencer Keith wanting to know if it's ready to, if it's time for the Zoom yet. Not yet. We got to talk about airplanes a little bit. Brian Chambers, what's going on? Barry Campbell. Howdy, y'all. Check 6, what's up? All right. So first, tonight, I want to send out my, I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I just got here. What's going on, man? It's been a little bit since I've seen you in the show. Good to see you again. F you, Kenny. JCB, what's happening? Man, I love this plane too. For those of y'all that were able to catch the short stream that we did on Monday, where I built the P-47, y'all can go back and watch it if you want to. This is the FMS 1500 millimeter P-47 in the Bonnie paint scheme. This one included the REFLEX gyro. So rather than using my trusty Spectrum NX10 that I've got right here, I actually have this bound up to my Radiomaster TX16S using an S-Bus compatible Radiomaster R168 receiver, which unfortunately is now discontinued, but prior to them getting rid of the R168, I purchased a whole boatload of them because they were like 11 bucks. Oh, I think this P-47 is, it's one of the better ones out there, in my opinion, that's still available for commercial sale, right? FMS used to have a 1700 millimeter version of this plane. I would have rather had the 1700, but because the 1700 is no longer available, I'd say that this is now the premier P-47 available in foam. Now, Hangar 9 has a extremely nice P-47 in balsa that is technically about the same price, but comes with nothing. So that plane will probably cost you about $1,000 to get it up in the air. This one was not quite as expensive. Flying Fortress RC, what's going on? Steve George, how you doing? Yes. So I have not flown this yet. Since Monday, every day we've had like sheer winds, gale force crap going on here. You know, all of our flags on the front of our houses are like standing horizontal. It's been hellacious winds, so I'm gonna wait for the winds to calm down a little bit before I take it out for its maiden flight. Hopefully, sometime this weekend, that'd be great. And you know, because I am looking forward to getting this one up in the air. The P-47s that I have flown in the past have been absolutely amazing, and I expect this one to also be amazing. Hold on a second. Ooh, ooh. That one burned a little. Primotus, what's happening? You know, Flying Fortress, everything that E-flite discontinues, there's a good reason for it. And the good reason is typically because it didn't sell well. So if they have something, and I'll tell you the secret to E-flite success, if it's a beginner plane, it's probably going to sell well, which is why you keep seeing like the Timber, the Cub Sport SS, the Apprentice, the Mini Apprentice. You keep seeing planes like that that are beginner friendly continue to evolve and continue to be sold. The Viper and now the Viper 90 continue to be sold because they're very friendly towards people that are beginning with jets. What I've noticed is because Horizon is a huge company, what we deem to be a successful airplane for other companies, take for example the F4. E-flite probably sold enough of those F4s where other companies would have been very happy with those sales numbers, but they weren't up to the expectations that Horizon has for sales figures on their airplanes, which may or may not be a fair assessment. You know, because they're such a huge company, you know, they're seeing sales figures in the hundreds of thousands of units for certain types of airplanes. And when they get another one that only sells, say, 5,000 units, you know, they're gonna throw their hands up in the air and be like, well, that was a waste, and toss it to the side. Unfortunately, you know, we don't get to see those figures, but that's how I imagine that is going down. And it's sad, you know, it's a sad reality. So what I would say is that if you see an airplane from Horizon, especially E-flite, foamy, where it's something that looks more advanced, if you want it, you need to get it quick, because it's likely that they're not going to sell a ton of them, especially if the price is high. You know, we're talking $400, $500, $600. If the price is high, you're probably not going to see that plane last very long because the sales numbers are nowhere near what the expectations are, because the expectations for sales figures are set in lower tiers. So they set what I consider to be an unfair expectation on their more expensive, more advanced airplanes. That's just my theory. I could be wrong. I probably am, but that's how I feel about it. Yeah, the 1.1 T28, you know, that's been around in like 2 or 3 different iterations now, the Park Zone. Great airplane. Yep, great airplane. I'd love to see him bring back, I think it was either the 1.1 or 1.2 T28 with the retractable landing gear and full package, you know, flaps, landing gear, all that business. I thought that was also a fantastic plane. Yeah, that's right, George. So that's my theory on why the planes that we consider to be awesome usually don't last very long when we're talking about E-flite and Horizon. Yeah, exactly, Shadow. I mean, they're a business. They got to make money, and you know, the sales figures that they're looking for. I mean, if they make several thousand of these airplanes, say they redid the P-47 here and they redesigned the lower fuse, redesigned the wing elements, made it where, you know, everything from the aileron out snaps off, made it very similar to the FW190 and the P51 1500 millimeters, which they could do, you know, because those molds were based on the original FMS plan. So they could do something like that here with the P51 or with the P47, but they'd have to sell a ton of them, you know. They'd have to sell a ton of them for it to make it worth their while. And while I certainly think that the P47 would sell well, it's I'm not like a marketing master. I don't know. I don't know how it would sell. I would hope that it would, because I think it's an awesome plane, but I'm not the one that gets to make those decisions. Nope, EQ, I have decided to exercise patience, and rather than go straight into paint, I am going to wait until I've flown the plane a dozen times. Once I've flown it 12 times and I'm comfortable with the flight characteristics and everything is good, if it's still in one piece, that's when it will go to paint. And we'll be changing the scheme of the plane and ordering up our graphics from Cali and getting this thing changed over to the Kraut Knocker. No. Shadow, this doesn't have invasion stripes. This has it has stripes. But number one, if you look at the side of the airplane here, this guy had 15 Japanese kills, which would suggest that this was a Pacific Theater plane. And if you remember what the purpose was, shut your mouth, Spencer. If you remember what the purpose was of the invasion stripes, then you'll understand why I'm saying this plane doesn't have invasion stripes. This was a Pacific Theater P-47. No invasion stripes were ever on this plane. Can anybody else put two and two together to say why this plane, being a Pacific Theater plane, does not have invasion stripes? It's trivia time. Now, if I'm able to get it out in the cold, if I'm able to get it out in the cold and Amy and I are able to get this thing to the field, the wind dies down, whatever, then we will, you know, once it starts to get too cold to go to the airfield and all that crap for the year, I may go ahead and paint it. If I can get like 6 flights on it before it starts getting too nasty outside, even if I get only 1 good flight on it and I'm like, you know what, that thing is tits, and I like ace the landing and everything goes perfect, then then I may go ahead and paint it. But I want to make sure that the thing flies great and I'm very happy with its flight performance. Oh, trust me, when I take it out to the field, if it's a good day, I may have, you know, 10 battery packs charged up and ready to rock, and we're just going to keep hot lapping this thing over and over and over. You know, Mark, that's commendable and all, but you probably live in an area where, you know, 26 degrees is nothing. To me, once we start adventuring into any number that starts with a 4, I'm out. There you go. So most of y'all got it. The invasion stripes were only used during the D-Day invasion because there were so many planes in the air that they wanted Allied gunners to know which planes belonged to the Allies and which planes did not. So it was far more for the troops on the ground to know which planes to shoot at. And if it had invasion stripes, don't shoot at it. So that was specifically for D-Day in the European theater. Pacific theater planes would not have had invasion stripes. Yeah, Shadow, that's how it works, man. I got acclimated to Hawaii weather. So I mean, it may curse me for the rest of my life. If it's not above like 55, 60, I don't want to go outside in it. Nope. 27 degrees, man. I'm sure it's probably cold out here. It hasn't been super cold here, to be honest with you. It's 36 here right now with the low. Woo! The low here is going to be 30 degrees first thing tomorrow morning. And then you know, Saturday and Sunday is both looking good as far as the weather goes. 59 degree high temp on Saturday, 57 high temp on Sunday. You know, so we may be able to get it out if the wind is looking good, but the wind looks crazy here lately. Let me check my crazy apps that tell me what the wind is supposed to be doing. And I'll see what tomorrow looks like. It is not good to fly right now. Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so maybe. Yeah, we got it. Tomorrow's supposed to be gusting into the 11 to 15 mile an hour range. I mean, we'll see what it looks like. If the gusts are like nonstop, you know, if it's like steady 15 miles an hour, I probably don't want to maiden this in that weather. But I will maybe take it out if it's pretty steady with the occasional wind gust. But you never know around here. You know, fall things get crazy. So yeah, I think, you know, if we were gusting up into like the 10 mile an hour range with steady winds around 5, I'd fly it all day long. But it really depends on what the winds look like tomorrow. If the winds look good, we're going to take this thing out and throw some batteries through it. Because I'm as excited to get it out as you guys are for me to fly it. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Now, all the ordnance and the little pitot tube and maybe even the little guns, like the guns aren't glued on. They're just stuck on the front of the wing. And I don't have the bombs on there and the center tank. All that's coming off, you know, for the flying. I don't usually fly with ordnance on the airplane or drop tanks or any of that stuff. Mike Bird, I think I'll be all right. So this is a 1,500 millimeter plane. The Spitfire was a 1,600 millimeter plane. So as long as they both look like they were relatively the same size distance-wise, this one will be a little bit closer and it shouldn't hit the trees. I should be all right. Pilot Ryan, what's going on? Thank you, sir. Don Shack, how you doing? Did both them idiots come in?
Yep. Hi, y'all.
Amy says hi. So, Shadow's got a memory like an elephant. And so the only time that I've ever hit the fence at my field was when I did the maiden flight on my Dynam P-47. And I whacked it right into the catch fence. Now, the catch fence took most of the brunt of that incident. But it was still funny. We shouldn't be having that kind of problem with this one. You know, since then, I have become much better at flying tail draggers. So, I don't know. Yeah, Amy made it home. Yep. I didn't eat all the gummy bears, but I always eat some. The funny cat, man. So listen, I've had cats for enough of my life to know that you don't try to make cats do what they don't want to do. So I have no idea where he is. I don't go looking for him, and if he finds me, he finds me. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I ain't going looking for him. You know, if I don't see him for like a day or two, you know, then I'll go looking for him. But he just wanders around the house and does his thing. And, you know, usually if I'm down here especially with an airplane on the table, I'm surprised he's not up here like loving on it. That's right, George. You don't mess with them. Cats do what they want. Yeah, if he's feeling dirty, he'll come down here and start cleaning himself. But I hear the dogs barking upstairs. Amy's out in the garage right now, and the dogs are upstairs, which means that the cat's probably up there messing with him, messing with Sasquatch. That's what the cat does. Yeah, he's up there messing with the dogs. So the dogs are dumb, and they're just going to sit up there and bark at him. Pilot Ryan's got it right. You don't live with a cat. The cat lives with you. You're living in the cat's house. We don't own this place. Just enough RC. That sucks, man. Lost an aileron over the water. Now, were you float flying, or did you just happen to be close to the water? And when you lost an aileron, that's where the plane ended up? Or were you flying over the water intentionally? Shadow, that's cool, man. I hope he did. And I hope he enjoys the big red plane. Jermaine Spencer, what's going on, man? It's good to see you. Flying Fortress, have a great night. Good to see you tonight. What the heck is a tree rat? Man, I don't even want to know what a tree rat is. That sounds terrible. Like that's the last thing I want to see, like climbing down a tree is like a big ass rat. Mm-mm. Mark M, that's funny. Because I see FF, and I guess my Navy brain takes over. And even though I know what you mean is Flying Fortress, that's not what I saw the first time I saw that. I'm saying, like, see you FF, like, dang, dude. Y'all are familiar. Rats. Mickey B, what's going on? Now check this out. Jermaine bought himself a Durafly T28 Centennial 1100 millimeter today. Did you get that for yourself for Christmas? And have you finally found out what your pain threshold is? Like, how much money are you willing to put into the dirt? That's always the question. And I think when most people go fly, and I still have, like, I still get nervous when I'm flying a plane that's over, like, well, really any plane. It's sad, right? Like, I don't want to crash any plane. There's some that I am very cavalier with, like the UMX airplanes, for example. UMX Turbo Timber, man, I will tear that thing apart, build it up, tear it apart again, replace parts. I don't give a crap, man. I have torn that plane up, doing loops, like nonstop loops. And I remember coming in one time so low that the airplane kept flying, but the landing gear just ripped right off of it. So after that, it was kind of a hand toss plane. I had to, it ripped the fuselage apart pretty good. I had to glue everything back together. But, like the Dynam planes, I really didn't care if I wrecked them. But none of the other planes that I've got, I ever really felt like I would be comfortable putting that plane in the ground. Like I don't want to crash any of my planes, which is why I fly so conservative. And I really wish that that I wasn't like that. So I've decided that I am going to take a couple of planes, even though I like them. I have other planes in my arsenal that I like better. So if I lose these, it's not the end of the world. So I need to get another beater Warbird. Maybe another Dynam plane. I don't know. I haven't figured that part out yet. But I need to get another beater Warbird. I should have used the FW-190. But I ended up giving that plane to a good friend of mine. So maybe I'll get one of the Arrows planes if they're still on sale for Black Friday. So I need to get one of the Arrows planes. And I'm also going to take the X-Fly Sirius. Even though I like the Sirius a lot, admittedly, I like the Avanti better. I'd be more upset to crash the Avanti than I would be the Sirius. So I think I'm going to go and get like one of the Arrows Warbirds that I'm willing to sacrifice, and the Sirius, and I'm going to use those planes to do all the stupid crap that I do on real flight. Nate, what's up? Shadow, that Dynam P47 has already been handed along to another owner. And that one wasn't coming apart, so it wasn't something that I could mail. It was the wings were like epoxied into the airframe because they kept coming loose. So with that Dynam P-47, it wasn't like this one. This plane, I don't feel is going to have the same problem that the Dynam did. The Dynam, the retention screws, you know, when you put the wing into the fuse, the retention screws went into the top and they were kind of short. So they only went into the very top of the wing. With this one, it's a plastic housing that slides in there that the bolts for the wings go through, and the bolts go from the top of the wing all the way down. They're about that long. I mean, they're a good 3 inches, you know, from top to bottom, and they go all the way through the meat of the wing to hold that wing in. So I'm not worried about this one coming apart the way the Dynam did. But yeah, that Dynam plane, it was done. It wasn't coming apart. Man, what? Who's the bastard? Why? Because I'm willing to sacrifice the serious to become a better pilot? I, I have to be willing to sacrifice a plane at the expense of my wanting to become a better pilot. So I could repair. So I still have the Van Halen Mustang. I could repair the Van Halen Mustang and put like more reasonable electronics into the Van Halen Mustang and get that one flying again. That would actually be a pretty simple task to get the crazy Mustang flying again. Check 6, just let it go, man. Let it fly, bastard. and I might do that, you know, because I already have that plane. I could just glue the front back on and just go and beat the crap out of it. Hey, y'all were wanting to see the cat. Here he is making his grand appearance for the evening. He's going to scratch himself with some rocket pods. He's checking out the propeller. Got to make sure it spins properly. All right. There he goes. Yep. He's got to make sure the ailerons are good. What's he going after next? Oh, he's coming over to visit. He's making sure that the suspension on the rear wheel works. There you go. Good kitty. He's doing his walk around, his pre-flight checks. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll save the serious in light of another plane. You know, but I gotta pick. I'm gonna pick one of my prop planes, and I'm gonna pick a jet that I'm willing to sacrifice to become a better pilot. Now, here's the thing. I have another jet that I could sacrifice. I have a very beat up free wing T-45 that was given to me. But here's the problem. That thing still has the old original outrunner, like from when the T-45 first came out. That plane flies very heavy with that particular motor in it. And because it doesn't fly very well, I don't think it would be a very good jet to go and do what I want to do with it. Maybe the Marlin is the good choice there. The Marlin's got everything but landing gear, right? That's a 5-channel airplane. Does it have flaps and a rudder? Does the Marlin have a rudder? Craig Beaven, what's going on, man? I don't care about the gear being fixed, you know. But if I can grab a lesser airplane that I'm willing to stuff into the dirt, you know, the Aeros planes seem like good candidates for that. And then I also have the Bigfoot, you know, to use as like a high wing sacrificial lamb. So listen, I mean, everybody's been there, right? Everybody that's a good pilot has had a. I haven't flown the Aeros F-15. Excuse me. That had a little bit of bass. Hold on, I got to get my lips wet. Bass. There we go. So we've got the Apprentice, Shadow. I don't know that the Bigfoot. I mean, I would agree that the Bigfoot is a great plane to train somebody with, but I think that the Apprentice is better. It's the Apprentice is way better. Now the Bigfoot, I think, is a better plane for high wing aerobatics. It's kind of got that 150 style airframe, and it's a fantastic plane. You know, like the roll rate on the Bigfoot is good. It doesn't have a lot of bad tendencies. You know, especially if you got your rudder, or I'm sorry, your flap to elevator mix right. Once the flaps come up, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of forward pressure on the stick to keep the airplane in level flight when you're inverted. So, you know, that's why I'm looking at the Bigfoot as another, you know, potential sacrificial airframe while I am, you know, getting more comfortable with putting the planes on and just doing silly things with airplanes. You know, I think that everybody wants, there's some expectation, right? Where you get egged on enough, and it's not like I don't want to. I want to be able to do silly things with airplanes. And we've got a crowd at our field that, you know, the hecklers. We've got the hecklers, you know, that try to encourage everybody and peer pressure you into doing stupid things with your airplanes. Now, typically, I don't succumb to the peer pressure. I keep doing my thing and I try to remain cautious, but I want to be able to oblige and I want to be able to advance my skill level and get to become, you know, a better pilot. I'm not going to say that I'm a bad pilot. I can fly the airplanes very well. I'm just too cautious. I stay too high up in the air. You know, I don't do a lot of risky things. You know, if I do inverted flight, it's for, you know, maybe 100 yards, and then I'm, you know, back upright again. And typically that inverted flight happens, you know, at 100 feet plus. So I just want to be able to, you know, to take a few planes and just go crazy with them. You know, start practicing in the simulator, get the planes out to the field. You know, and I may spend money. Like I said, I may go and get like an Arrows Marlin and an Arrows. I don't know. I don't know if I'll do like. I probably wouldn't do the P-47. I think the Arrows P-47 is like a 980 millimeter. I probably want to do one of the 1100s. So like the Mustang, probably. I don't know that the Corsair is really my thing, but I may do like the one of the 1100 Warbirds and the Marlin, and use those in the Bigfoot, and use those planes to just ring the shit out of them, and you know, get more comfortable with flying a foot off the deck, and get more comfortable with flying inverted and doing, you know, inverted circuits, and just trying to push the envelopes of my comfort zones. Because I don't want to say that you know, that I'm pushing the boundaries of my limits as a pilot, because I think that skill wise, I feel like I'm more than capable of doing these things. It's just a comfort zone, and I have to be able to do something to, you know, to get out of that. That'll break that comfort zone for me. You know what I'm saying? David Snyder, what's going on, buddy? Robert Davis. So, number one, welcome to the show. If you haven't been here before, welcome. The FMS Futura. So that's a tough one for me, right? There are, number one, there's a lot of sport jets out there. And when we look at all the sport jets that are available, especially in that 80 millimeter frame. So when the Futura came out, you know, what did they have available? So, you know, there's other stuff out there, like the Stinger 90 is still out there. But you had like the Havoc, the E-Flight Havoc. You had the original Futura, the Futura V2, the Avanti. And I think that after you fly the Avanti, is the Futura great? Yes, it's a great plane. But the Avanti, in my opinion, is so much better that I wouldn't even consider it as a purchase. That's just me. Maybe I'm crazy. You know, the Futura is cool, and it flies good. I have flown one. They do fly good, but they are not. They don't have, like, there's just something about the Avanti. The Avanti will do whatever you want it to do, whether it's flying slow, flying fast, you know, majestic scale maneuvers, you know, like awesome barrel rolls, or if you want like insano corkscrew rolls. I mean, there's nothing the Avanti won't do. I mean, it tracks on rails. It's got extremely good tendencies. It's extremely difficult to stall the Avanti, and if you do, it's going to fall out of the sky and crash immediately. But it would have gotten, like, you would have had to do something stupid to stall the Avanti. I feel like the Avanti is so much better, especially in the 80 millimeter category, that it's hard for me to imagine suggesting any other airplane. You know, so when you ask me about the Futura, you know, I gotta say, like, have you looked at the Avanti? Is it ugly? You know, I mean, is that why you don't want it? Because it flies amazing. Now, compared to these planes, all of these planes are infinitely more difficult to fly than the Futura, the Avanti, the Havoc. All the sport jets are going to fly better or be more predictable than any of these planes that are sitting behind me, with the possible exception of the F-22. The F-22 is a very well-behaved plane, and it will teach you some valuable lessons about jets. Like the F-22, and for those of you guys that have the F-22, you know, feel free to chime in on this. I think the F-22 is one of those jets where if you get into jets and you start out with a sport jet, like most of us do, a lot of folks will start out with a sport jet or a little bitty 64 millimeter. To me, you know, the little 64 millimeter, like toss and boss planes, like the F-15, you know, we call them starter planes, but does it really prepare you for like a real EDF, you know, like a big 80, 90 millimeter EDF? Kinda. You know, I think that the 70 millimeter Viper does a better job of that than the little 64 millimeter guys. The 80 millimeter Avanti is an absolute dream of a first EDF, and the 70 millimeter Viper is also a fantastic first EDF, my opinion, right? The F-22, I think, has to be on like the required reading list, the required flying list. If you are going to get into military jets, the F-22 is a must-have because it forces you to fly the plane the way that a military jet wants to be flown, because it will just settle in to, like when you land an F-22, the F-22 wants to be in high alpha. It just wants to be there. You know, so as you start slowing down, the nose of the F-22 will just start to pick up, and it will force you into, you know, into learning how to turn, you know, and to coordinate that turn and bring the plane around flat. Otherwise, you'll end up in a bad situation, right? The F-22 makes you a better pilot, and it flies amazing. It flies amazing. Why did some, Robert Davis, are you asking about the P-47s? Why did some of those have the black and white or the yellow and black checkerboard cowlings? So this, I don't know if it was up to the flight crews or if it was a squadron deal, but a lot of P-47s in World War II, I mean, it's really difficult to find two P-47s from World War II that look the same. See, Mafia, what's going on, buddy? So I hope that answers your question. I know that I didn't tell you, like, yes, if your choice is a military Warbird from Free Wing or the FMS Futura, and of those, which is the easier plane to fly? I would say the Futura is the easier plane to fly, and that would be what I would go with first. Actually, the F-22 flies better than the Futura, in my opinion. But you know, and I know you didn't ask for it, but the Futura, I would get an Avanti S from Freewing before I got a Futura. If you want a second sport jet, or if you want like a backup flyer, if something bad happens to your Avanti, I mean, I'm still kind of in that same boat to buy a second Avanti. But they're just that good. The Avanti is an incredible, incredible airplane. And I think that there's a lot of folks that would agree with that. You're going to be hard pressed to find somebody that hates the Avanti. That's all I can say. I mean, the Avanti to me is it is the standard by which all other sport jets should be measured, at least foamy, in that 70, 80, 90 millimeter frame. And not very many can stand up to it. I think that the Viper, you know, so the 70 millimeter and 90 millimeter Vipers, I think are incredible airplanes. They both also fly great. But I think, you know, for more extreme flying, you know, like just the envelope of what you can do with the Avanti, I think makes it even more impressive than those two very impressive airplanes. They're great. They're really good. So, you know, take with that what you will. You know, if you want a Futura, by all means get one. But don't get a Futura because you didn't know what an Avanti was. If you know what an Avanti is and you choose a Futura over an Avanti, don't let it be because the Avanti is ugly, because a piece of a can of spray paint will take care of ugly. You know, everybody, just like the F-22, if you're going to get into military jets, everybody owes it to themselves. This is a required catalog item. This should be in everybody's hangar. The F-22 should be in everybody's hangar. It is one of the best flying large military jets, period. Period. There isn't one better. The thing flies amazing. It's an amazing airplane. I feel the same way about the Avanti. That is a required hangar item that everybody who is going to get into EDFs, period, if you are ever going to fly EDF jets and you look and you want, you know, one of the best EDF sport jets that exists, the Avanti is the way to go, dude. It's amazing. Robert Davis, I do not have a Freewing F-14. And before I step into the F-14 territory, there is another Freewing plane that I want to get before I go down the F-14 path. Actually, a couple. I still want to get the twin 80 Freewing A-10. And I still would like to get the twin 80 Freewing MiG-29. Both of those are bad to the bone. I love them. But that's probably what my next Freewing plane will be, is the twin 80 millimeter A-10. So, Victor, I would just like to see another Freewing military jet, period. It's been such a long year. I was really hoping we'd see another military jet. But, you know, it's getting down to the crunch time, man. If they're going to do it, they better do it like in the next week. Craig Beaven. Craig Beaven says he'll sell me his A10 new in the box. Man. So Robert Davis, the A10 from Free Wing is a twin 80 millimeter EDF. And the MiG-29 is also a twin 80 millimeter. In fact, they have the same power system that the F-14's got in them. But the F-14 is just a little, only because I don't know what to expect with a variable geometry wing. I just don't know. An Su-30 with canards, that would be that would be pretty awesome. I think they probably could have done that with the MiG-29 with very few modifications to the mold. So, Matt M., I know that you are defrost, that's true. Matt M., you are correct. I was more suggesting that they are all twin 80 millimeter EDFs. I thought that the A10 was available with the Inrunners now, but I guess it is not. And that's what I've heard, Rich, is that the F-14 flies fantastic without sweeping the wings. You know, just leave the wings out. It flies awesome. So yeah, the A10 is probably where I will go next. Because the A10 is kind of like the big brother of the old P-47. Or the younger, stronger little brother of the P-47. P-47, the original Thunderbolt, the original ground attack machine, just wrecked face in ground attack. Oh, man. So I hope y'all can't hear all that. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on under the chair behind me. There's something back there. This F-15's making all kinds of crazy racket. It is why the A-10 is called the Thunderbolt 2. So the the P-47, the original Thunderbolt, this thing was a ground attack beast. So the A-10 carrying on the Thunderbolt 2 name, you know, I mean, they both were originally at least made by the same company, obviously years after each other. So, you know, when they came out with their you know, ground attack airplane number 2. Like, what can we do to make a plane that's even better than the P-47 was? So I'm glad that the sequel, you know, that was one of those cases where the sequel was a heck of a lot better than the original. The A-10, I mean, there is no, who makes a better ground attack airplane than the A-10? It just, I don't think that, yes, someone is drowning a duck behind me. Yes, that's exactly what happens. I don't think anybody makes, there is no better ground attack military jet made today that's better than an A-10. The A-10 is just amazing. It's just amazing. And yes, to answer your question, this is a Radiomaster TX-16S. That is actually what the P-47 is bound up to. So I'll be flying this here P-47 with the TX-16S. And if you're curious for the other half of that, I am running the latest and greatest version of Edge TX on my TX-16S. And it runs great, works well, lasts a long time, and I can touch the touchscreen and it actually does things. Dude, this thing was like a train wrecker, a plane wrecker. You know, that is one area where I think the P-47 was a better plane to a degree than the A-10. Was the P-47 was a ground attack monster and a very capable dogfighter as well. So, but kudos to the A-10. Still, man, I mean, that thing, for what it was made for, there's nothing better than the A-10. That thing is just a beast of an airframe. Oh, Fry Guy, that's terrible, dude. Hopefully you're feeling all right. Craig Beaven, I have had the opportunity to see a P-47 up close and personal. And when I saw it, it was a P-47 Razorback, much like the one that we see here. I saw it sitting next to a Mustang. I saw it sitting next to so there was a P-47, a Mustang, a Corsair, and I believe they had a T6 Texan. There were 4, you know, Warbirds kind of all parked right next to each other. And, you know, you see them on TV, whatever, they don't look, especially when you see something like an F-15. You know, when I saw all these planes sitting next to each other, it was at the time, I think the Blue Angels were still flying the A4. The F-15s were still a new airframe. I don't even know. I mean, the F-18s were out and about, but they weren't, you know, they weren't using them as Blue Angels yet. The F-14 was still like the major, you know, fighter for the Navy. You know, so I had an opportunity to see, you know, F-16s were like smaller airplanes, but, you know, I'm seeing F-15s all the time. I'm seeing the A4, the F-16, F-14s all the time, F-18s rarely. We're flying in and out of Elmendorf Air Force Base up in Alaska. But I did get an opportunity to see like 4 Warbirds. And when you see them like coming in, they look really small. When you're right next to them, it was amazing how much bigger, like noticeably larger, when they're all parked right next to each other on the airfield. You've got your Mustang, which was like a sleek, streamlined, aerodynamic, long range speed interceptor. And you've got the Corsair, which was, as sleek as it could be with a radial engine. You had your AT-6 Texan, which wasn't designed to be sleek at all. It was a trainer. And then you had the P-47. The P-47 was like this giant beast of an airplane. It was way bigger than, look at this little bitty plane and this giant freaking behemoth of an airplane. The P-47 was a big plane. Real big. This was a beast of an airplane. But yes, I got to see, Corsair, P-47, and Mustang all fly together in formation, which was really cool.
Playing from damned O2.
But that all happened when I was like a little kid. An RF Interlink DX controller. I do not have one of those. Yeah, the Sky Raiders were also giant airplanes. I'd have to look at the specs and see if it was bigger than a P-47, by how much. I have read some things that say that the P-47 was the largest single-wing fighter, but the Sky Raider, the largest single-engine fighter. I don't know that the Sky Raider was considered to be a fighter. I think it was considered an attack aircraft, like more of a bomber. So I think when the when those kinds of statements are being made that the P-47 was the largest single-engine fighter, I think they're talking just the pursuit aircraft, just the P-designated aircraft, fighters, right, back in World War II. So it may have well been the largest single-engine P-designated, pursuit fighter, but I don't think it was the largest single-engine aircraft. I think the Sky Raider was bigger than the P-47. And I also think like the Dauntless, like the SBD Dauntless dive bomber was also most likely a bigger airplane than the P-47. All right. So we are 10 minutes past 10 o'clock. Thick. What is up, Mr. Noons? Dude, the F-22 is a huge airplane. But the F-22 is about as nimble as they come. I mean, that plane can just, it maneuvers like no one's business. I don't care how impressive, some of these Russian planes look, when you go to like watch air shows on YouTube or whatever. I've seen the F-22 in real life at multiple demonstrations. They used to fly them over my house. I mean, I lived You know, I was at Pearl Harbor for many years watching F-22s fly in and out of Pearl Harbor every single day, because that is, the home base of a fairly active F-22 squadron. I've seen these things out doing business. Man, F-22s are one of the baddest airplanes in the sky that there's ever been, period. I mean, they're just ridiculous. All right. So we are 10 minutes past 10 o'clock, which means, actually, we're 12 minutes past 10 o'clock now, which means that it is time for us to call it an evening, fellas. But fear not, Friday nights at 10 o'clock, the night is still young, and we will be continuing this conversation into our Friday night Zoom session. The P-47 will be the same green that it is on the top. I will be painting it that entire green all the way down to the center point of the wings, and then the bottom half of the wings and the underbelly and the bottom of the horizontal stabs will all be gray. So we are going to be starting the Friday night Zoom. So for those of you guys that want to come and join us in the Friday night Zoom, and for those of you that are not familiar with Zoom, Zoom is a teleconferencing app, a video chat app. You do not have to have a paid subscription. It is free. You can log in with your Gmail account, the same account that you use to log into YouTube, you can use to log into Zoom. It may ask you to log into Zoom when you start. Yeah, Spencer. So see, I am trying to set this thing up. You give me all this crap every week. Spencer Keith does. So I have to have at least one security option turned on. I either have to require a meeting passcode, or I have to enable the waiting room, or I have to only allow authenticated users. So one of those three has to be turned on. I don't want people to need a meeting passcode. That's stupid. I don't want to need a waiting room, so I have to allow only authenticated users, which is bullcrap. No, if I enable the waiting room, dude, it won't let me turn it off after I've started the chat. It's grayed out. So anyway, fine. I'll enable the waiting room, which makes me mad. And now I have started the thing, and I'm going in here, and it will not let me disable the waiting room. I can't disable it. I can't turn it off. Which is bullcrap. So, Fry Guy, don't be one of them old people. Them old people that's like, I don't do technology. Just jump in here, man. Just jump into the Zoom, dude. You'll love it. All right, so I'm going to end this shit. Because I was hoping you'd be right, Spencer. I was hoping you'd be right. Spencer, when you do yours, when you do your chats, do you have a waiting room enabled? Like, are you actually like hitting the approve button and letting people in? So I don't know what you've done in your settings, but mine, there's 3 security features and I have to have one of them turned on. I do not have a choice. I have to have one of them turned on. So, who knows, man? I wish I could turn that shit off. I don't know how. So anyway, we're going to start this thing up. We're going to turn that on. Invite. Copy. All right, guys. So we're going to be firing up the Zoom. Don't listen to that guy. And here comes the invite link. Now, the invite link is the same every single week. Like I said, somehow Spencer has cracked the code of Zoom security and figured out a way where he's able to have this where you don't have to be logged in at all and you can just do willy-nilly with security, you know, but I haven't figured out a way to crack that code. I'm pretty sure if I gave him my phone, he wouldn't be able to crack the code either. But anyway, the point is here that I'm trying to make, the URL that you are seeing in the chat right now, that link will always get you into the Zoom session. The Zoom session will always work using that link. So, if you forget what the link is, use the link that you see in the chat right now. Bookmark it, save it into a text document on your desktop or something. If you save that link, use the same link every week. It never changes. It's always the same. For anybody that's trying to get in and it says that it won't allow you to get in, you have to log into Zoom, and instead of creating a Zoom account, use the same account that you use to log into YouTube. Hit log in with Google and use your Google account that you use to log into YouTube to log into Zoom. And then you'll be good to go. It'll let you right in. So anyway, guys, I'm going to post the link to the Zoom session one more time. Michael Bear, it will let you in. It's the same every week, man. Guys, we've been doing these Zooms now for over a year. And people that have been in the Zooms many, many times before, they always say the same thing. Like, I can't get in. Do the exact same thing that you did last week when you were in the Zoom with us. You might have to open it up in a different browser. Copy the link and paste it into Safari, or copy the link and paste it into, you don't need a code. You do not need a code. You just need to log into Zoom. You do not need a code. There are, hold on. There are 13 people sitting in this Zoom right now, and one of them is Kenny. Kenny doesn't even know how to spell code. So I can promise you, you don't need a code. You don't need a code to get into the Zoom. You just need to be logged into Zoom. And you can log into Zoom using your Google account. If you paste the link into a supported web browser like Safari or Chrome, you're going to be good to go. If you try to open it up straight from the YouTube app on your phone, it's probably not going to work. If you try to open it up from within like Facebook Messenger, it's probably not going to work. So anyway, guys, keep trying. I see Michael Baer just got in, so he must not need a code anymore. So if you have any issues getting into the Zoom, please hit me up on Facebook or on Instagram. If you look down in the description of any of my videos, you will find the link to my Instagram. You can send me a message on Instagram and I will try to help you get into the Zoom if you want to join us. Anyway, I'm going to put the link in here one more time. And hope that you all join us. Yes, Fred, you may need to do that. But something I can promise you is that everybody who is capable of chatting in here right now, you have got a Google account. That's how you're able to chat inside YouTube. And you can log into Zoom using your Google account that you've already made. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you coming out tonight and hanging out with us and watching the live show. We're going to be doing this every Friday unless Dave's RC comes back one day. I have high hopes that Dave will be with us again one day, and then I will be shifting everything back to Monday. But until that happens, you'll be seeing us here at 9 o'clock every Friday night, and then around 10 o'clock every Friday night Eastern Time, we'll be firing up the Friday night Zoom. We'll be posting a link to the Zoom here in Facebook and possibly in the community tab of the YouTube channel. So if you don't get in now and you want to join us later, come find us on Facebook in the RC Pilots Lounge, in the EDF Jet Clubhouse and the EDF Jets group on Facebook. We will also have links. Anyway, guys, I appreciate all you guys coming and hang with us on a Friday night. And we will see you next week. You guys have a good night.